The way people watch games is different these days, whether they're at home or in person, and marketers are going to find those opportunities.
Especially when the game itself is kind of at a lull, it becomes an extra marketing and engagement opportunity where you kind of have consumers in a place where they're cognitively and emotionally heightened.
Because that's when they're likely to buy more stuff, whether it's another $12 beer or a $10 hot dog. I'm Andy Euler for Marketplace.
And I'm Sabri Ben-Achour with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
Professional Industrial Hygiene Services is a local provider of industrial hygiene services for general industry, government agencies, and the public, committed to protecting the well-being of employees from environmental and physical hazards in the workplace. Info at pihsinc.com.
Wayne Hogan of the Terrell Hogan Personal Injury and Wrongful Death Law Firm. Serious injury cases are complex, and civil trial attorneys present the evidence juries need to see and hear. More at waynehogan.law.
Baptist Health wants you to have peace of mind during these challenging times. If you have concerns about COVID-19 symptoms or the vaccine, talk to an expert. This service is available every day, 8 a.m. through 5 p.m. 904-302-5050.
This is WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. Ahead in the next 5 minutes, live local news for the First Coast from the WJCT News team.
Florida, the hot spot for a new strain of coronavirus. I'm Melissa Ross, and just ahead this hour on First Coast Connect, a new and highly contagious variant of COVID-19 is spreading more in Florida than in any other state, with hundreds of active cases, including one in Duval County. We'll speak with Chad Nielsen of UF Health Jacksonville about this new variant. Everything you need to know. That's coming up, then later.
We're going to be offering 8,100 free Moderna COVID-19 vaccines to eligible recipients across Winn-Dixie.
Winn-Dixie and Harvey Stores, the latest place to receive your COVID vaccination. We'll tell you all about that. Plus, getting help for students struggling with their mental health in this pandemic. All of that and more is just ahead. After the day's news.
Live from NPR News, I'm Giles Snyder. President Biden has declared an emergency in Texas, adding federal aid to the state and local response to the winter storm that has brought bitterly cold temperatures, ice, and snow to the state. The weather has knocked out power to more than 2 million customers. Rolling blackouts are occurring this morning, with temperatures in the single digits in cities such as Dallas, Waco, and Abilene. Joey Palacios is with Texas Public Radio. He says all 254 counties are affected.
Texas is not accustomed to cold weather like this. The disaster declaration allows for the use of federal resources like FEMA during and after the winter storm. The National Weather Service says wind chills could reach up to 15 degrees below zero near San Antonio, where Mayor Ron Nirenberg says officials have been preparing for days to handle cold not seen since the late 1980s.
It's been a generation since we've had a winter storm hit this hard.
Highways in San Antonio are shut down due to ice until further notice. Grocery stores closed in the late afternoon Sunday. Public transportation has been suspended, and even COVID-19 vaccine appointments for Monday have been rescheduled. For NPR News, I'm Joey Palacios in San Antonio.
The National Weather Service has posted winter storm warnings today from Texas to Maine because of ice and snow. Data from Johns Hopkins University show new coronavirus cases in the U.S. continue to decline, and the pace of vaccinations has accelerated. Some 1.6 million shots are being administered every day. But NPR's Allison Aubrey says there's a problem. Demand is outstripping supply.
Vaccine makers are under contract to produce millions of more doses per week, but it's not going to happen overnight. There are continued bottlenecks. Vaccination centers receive weekly allocations. They're using them up sometimes before the week is over. So at this moment, it is fair to say that demand far outstrips supply.
Advisors to the FDA are to meet later this month to discuss emergency use authorization for the one-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Supporters of Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny held small cell phone vigils across Russia Sunday evening, defying warnings of arrest by authorities. Charles Maynes in Moscow, where a Kremlin spokesman said today that no laws were broken.
In a small act of civil disobedience, thousands of Russians in residential courtyards held cell phone flashlights aloft for several minutes Sunday evening before posting the scenes to social media. Allies of Alexei Navalny had called for the move in a gesture of support for the jailed opposition leader. Navalny was sentenced to nearly 3 years in prison upon his return to Russia from Germany, where he'd been recovering from a near-fatal poisoning attack. Sunday's vigil was also intended to avoid more confrontations with police after more than 10,000 people were detained in recent street protests the government insists were illegal. For NPR News, I'm Charles Maines in Moscow.
And you're listening to NPR News. More protests in Myanmar today. Protesters gathered across the country again, calling for an end to military rule. The military seized power about 2 weeks ago from the civilian government led by Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi. She'd been expected to be in court today, but a judge said her remand has been extended until Wednesday. Her freedom is a key demand of protesters. In India, police have arrested a local leader of climate activist Greta Thunberg's group. The arrest has sparked outrage over freedom of expression online, as NPR's Lauren Freyer reports from Mumbai.
Indian police arrested 22-year-old Disha Ravi at her home Saturday in southern India. She's now in the capital, New Delhi, for 5 days of questioning. Police say she's one of those behind a social media toolkit with tips on how to spread awareness of farmer protests. Indian farmers have been rallying for months against new laws that deregulate agriculture. Some celebrities, including climate activist Greta Thunberg, have tweeted their solidarity. The Indian government says it's part of an international conspiracy to defame, even wage war on India. Ravi faces sedition charges, which carry a life sentence. Activists say police are setting a dangerous precedent of arresting anyone who tweets criticism of the government. Lauren Freyer, NPR News, Mumbai.
European Union urging member states to be on guard against fraudsters offering fake COVID-19 vaccines. The EU's anti-fraud office said today that it's aware of a number of reports of scammers working to defraud EU governments, which are trying to speed up the pace of vaccinations. The EU's program has been hit by delays and supply disruptions. I'm Giles Snyder, NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Morgan Stanley, presenting Thoughts on the Market, their podcast with analysis and perspectives supported by a global team of researchers. 3 minutes an episode, 5 times a week. Users can search for Thoughts on the Market.
A new, more contagious strain of coronavirus is hitting Florida harder than any other state. Good Monday morning. We're live from Studio 5 on this President's Day. Hope you're having a good start to your week. I'm Melissa Ross. Thanks for joining us here on First Coast Connect. And just ahead, what you need to know about the new COVID-19 variant spreading across the state of Florida. Get on the line now. We're about to speak to an expert. It's 549-2937 to join the show. Then later, nothing short of a mental health crisis for Florida's students is happening now. What parents can do to help their kids. But first this morning, the latest numbers on the pandemic. The state now reports 1.82 million positive tests for COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic, with more than 5,400 new cases added Sunday. 17 new deaths from the virus reported from Duval County overnight, 96 all over the state. We are closing in on nearly 30,000 deaths from COVID-19 in Florida. At the same time, a new and more infectious strain of COVID-19 is now spreading throughout the state. The CDC says this strain of the virus, known as the UK variant or the B117 variant, has infected nearly 350 people in Florida, and they have reported one positive case so far in Duval County. Now, this is the most confirmed cases of this UK variant of any state. Twice as many as have been identified than in any other state across America. Not good news, really, for Florida residents. We're also weary of this pandemic and hoping to get vaccinated as soon as possible so we can put this incredibly challenging time behind us. So, what do we need to know right now about the new COVID variant? We're so pleased to welcome back to the show Chad Nielsen, Director of Accreditation and Infection Prevention at UF Health Jacksonville. He's been looking into this, and he joins us now. Hi, Chad.
Hi, Melissa. Good morning.
Always good to get your insights. What are your questions for Chad Nielsen of UF Health Jax about the new and highly contagious UK COVID variant? More active in Florida than any other state, the CDC says. Give us a call. It's 549-2937. Emails to First Coast Connect at WJCT.org. Tweets to @MelissaInJax. Already getting your tweets. And our Facebook page, as always, is open. All right, Chad, what do we know about this variant? We know that it's more contagious than the already very contagious basic COVID virus. What can you tell us about this new variant?
So far, what we know is not only is it more contagious, but it's here, right? In the state of Florida, I believe the CDC this morning is saying we're up to almost 380 cases of the variant strain here in the state of Florida without any signs of it slowing down. Largely, folks in my field are expecting this UK variant to be the dominant strain here in the state of Florida in the coming weeks. So it's really imperative that we start vaccinating people quicker and we continue to adhere to social distancing and masking as much as possible to stem the tide of this.
Can the vaccines that are available work effectively against this new strain?
Absolutely. Investigators have been looking at all of the different strains, the Brazil, South African, the UK strain now for several weeks, and testing it against the current on-market vaccines that we have available, both the Pfizer and the Moderna, and they have found high efficacy for the vaccines against this strain. So it's really imperative we start getting this vaccine out in order to keep the virus from infecting people and providing another way it can spread.
All right, and so we know of one case so far in Duval County of the UK variant. Tell us more about that. We know, as you said, nearly 400 cases statewide. One in our area, could be more.
Yeah, so it's largely expected it's already here in the Duval County area or all of Northeast Florida. We've been expecting this to come over for quite some time. Our limitation is that largely it's difficult to test for these variant strains, and it's a little bit scattershot in terms of who tests and how they test. So I fully expect that this new UK variant will be the dominant strain here in Jacksonville. We just don't have all of the biotechnology tools here or money to be testing for it on a wider scale.
And you've talked to some other media outlets saying that a standard COVID test can come back quickly, but to identify this variant is a little more difficult. Is that right with a COVID test?
Yeah, that's correct. So we've gotten pretty good at testing for generally, are you positive for COVID or not? But in order to tease out whether or not a specific COVID sample is a new variant or the UK variant, it could take up to a couple weeks, and it has to be sent to a reference lab to do so. It's very technologically advanced. We're very good at doing that in the scientific field, but it's costly, and most hospitals in the area here in Jacksonville don't have the ability to do it.
And why is Florida the poster child, as we always seem to be, Chad, for this problem? More cases of this variant in Florida than any other state. Is that due to tourism here?
It might be due to tourism. It might be due to the fact that we are still a snowbird state. We have a lot of residents who move here or live here in the off season from the Northeast. So we still have a lot of travel going on to and from Florida. We might not be getting European tourists coming over, but certainly our state is filled with people who come and go out of our state to the Northeast or elsewhere. Top that off with the fact that each county has different masking mandates. We've spoken about this on this show before, too. Duval County has continued to have a masking mandate, and they are the only county in Northeast Florida that does. So when you have a difference in how each county handles their masking mandates or other local business laws, you have to expect that the virus will continue to spread.
This is critical information to keep repeating, Chad. We have to keep masking up because this new variant is not only more contagious, British government scientists believe it could also be more deadly. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The British government submitted a report stating that what they found in the UK was that this new virus could be 30 to 70% more deadly than the previous dominant strains. And so this is very early evidence that we're seeing from the UK government saying, look, this is not only more contagious, it can also be more deadly. And so that has to be peer reviewed, and obviously there's a lot of other studies going on out there looking at the UK variant and how it affects the population. But social distancing and masking are critical particularly when the percent positivity and case numbers are down. Here in Duval County and really largely in Northeast Florida, we're under about 7% new cases per day, and that's great, but we can't be lulled into a sense of everything's back to normal now, because that's how we got into a big mess during the Christmas season.
You said vaccination is critical. Later in the hour, we'll hear from a vice president at Southeastern Grocers about how Winn-Dixie and Harvey stores are becoming new vaccination sites. Your hospital, UF Health Jax, was doing a lot of vaccinations. That has shifted. We've seen a shifting away from hospitals to other places for vaccination opportunities. How do you see this increased vaccine supply and the increasing numbers of vaccination opportunities popping up around the region helping to ease this crisis in the coming weeks?
Well, I certainly think it's a positive sign that we're seeing more partnerships to get this vaccine out. Right now, Florida ranks right in the middle of all of the states. We're 24th in the nation in terms of how much vaccine we've given out versus how much we have. So clearly we have a much better job to do in Florida to get our numbers a lot higher. Currently in the Northeast Florida area, we've only vaccinated roughly 100,000 people out of the 1.5 million in the metro area. So that's obviously not enough. Here at UF Health Jacksonville, we ourselves have vaccinated almost 20,000 people. So much more is needed in order to get these vaccines out to people. And we keep reiterating that if we can get more people vaccinated, you're going to start seeing these variants go away, because the variants need people to infect in order to mutate and change. And the more people we can get vaccinated, the more likely we're going to beat this variant or anything coming down the pipeline in the future.
We're speaking right now with Chad Nielsen, Health Director of Infectious Disease at UF Health Jacksonville. What are your questions about the new variant of coronavirus impacting Florida right now more than any other state in America? It's 549-2937. Eric is in Arlington. Hi, Eric. How are you? Good morning.
Hey, Melissa. It's really disappointing. People talk about the left and the right and how it's two extremes and there has to be some middle ground or whatever. The right has continually, daily, unremittingly politicized this virus. The left has not. The left has basically lined up with the public health standards. Whatever the public health standards are, I should wear a mask. Okay, I'll wear a mask. We should shut down restaurants. Okay, we'll shut down restaurants. This past weekend, I guess it was either Friday or Saturday, the Republican governor of this state characterized the idea that we would have a travel ban in the state of Florida as an attack on the state. And I'm using his word, an attack. Was it an attack on Great Britain or South Africa when we discontinued travel to those countries? No, it was just simply a public health decision that was made in the best interest of the nation and everybody in the country. And so this drumbeat of, well, the right is the left and the right are two sides of the same. It's not. The right is politicizing this thing. The left is just simply lining up with public health officials. Thanks for taking my call.
Eric, thanks. Chad Nielsen, of course, people see this whole ordeal through their political prism. I do want to read an email from another listener. He writes, "It's funny how we are okay naming this new COVID variant the UK variant, but it's racist to say China virus." So thanks for pointing that out, listener. But all of that said, it is so unfortunate the way this virus has become politicized. And I do think Eric has a point in the sense that certainly former President Trump set the tone for disavowing the advice of public health experts about how best to deal with this pandemic. That has not helped guys like you as you try desperately to protect people from this virus. We know that masking works. We know that social distancing works. We know that avoiding large indoor gatherings works. And unfortunately, these kind of common sense public health guidelines are being ignored by millions of Americans. And that's not making it easier for us to get past this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, here in the state of Florida, we've seen almost 30,000 deaths due to the COVID-19 virus. That's more than flu deaths in a 5 or 10 year combined period. And those almost 30,000 deaths in Florida affected everyone, right? It wasn't just liberals, it wasn't just conservatives. It affected Florida citizens, no matter what their political party was. So folks like me in public health, we get into the field knowing that the things that we do and the things that we recommend is in order to save lives, regardless of political affiliation. So it has been challenging over the past year or so under a former White House to hear this sort of divisiveness come out about common sense public health and science, really. But we're hopeful that moving forward, we're going to see a different tune coming out of the federal government, which will ease at least some of our work and some of the work we do in the hospital in order to protect our patients and the population in general.
What's your reaction to the Governor DeSantis, pushing back against this story that came out the other day that the Biden White House was considering a travel ban to Florida?
Well, certainly I think it's the federal government's way to say, look, we're watching you, and if states don't want to participate in ending this virus and ending this pandemic, I think that any state can expect harsher guidelines and a lot more political discourse about how they're doing. It's undeniable we have more of the variant cases here in the state of Florida versus anywhere else, and there's reasons for that. And so our government here in the state of Florida is going to have to reconcile with that. And I'm not overall surprised that there's a new tone coming out of the White House towards each state who are having these problems.
What's your reaction to the listener who said there's no problem with calling this new variant the UK variant, but there was this huge outcry over calling the initial virus the Wuhan or the China virus?
So there's certainly some validity in that writer's claims. And there's scientific names certainly for all of these things, right? So if I say SARS-CoV-2, that actually means COVID-19. This UK variant has an official scientific name, the B117, which you've referenced. We fall back on these monikers because they're easier for general public and listeners to comprehend or understand, and it's just a RIT. But certainly he has some validity to that. World Health Organization is currently in Wuhan, China, looking at the investigating the origins of this virus, which is a very complicated job, and it could take them years, if ever, to discover where this SARS-CoV-2 COVID-19 virus came from. But there's certainly some validity in what he has to say.
What's your take on the theory held by some, it's been called a conspiracy theory, that the virus originated in a lab?
Well, that's certainly the easiest explanation. We know that in this kind of science, it's very difficult in order to find where these things came from. Currently, the best thinking we have is that it's a mold of two different viruses that happened naturally in nature amongst a pangolin, which is an animal over there in Southeast Asia, and a bat. And so we certainly know that the easiest explanation is, well, this was created in a lab and it leaked. But the easiest explanation isn't always the case, particularly when it comes to virology. We see viruses mutate and combine all the time in nature, and we still don't have some explanations of where they came from. But we use genetic sequencing, and we use pretty advanced biotechnology methods to figure these things out. But the idea that it came from a lab right now is just not supported by any evidence.
5492937. Jane on the South Side. Hello, Jane.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
This was my my question. Chad mentioned that they were moving the vaccines away from the hospitals. And when you call to or write to get a vaccine, it says if you're an EpiPen user, they turn you down. And I have called, I've talked to them, they said, no, if you're EpiPen, you have to go to the hospital. I've been told by two of my doctors, we really need you in the hospital. I seem to react to things. My husband is a high risk also. Where do people like us go? We've been waiting for months. We're in our 70s.
Oh, gosh. I'm so sorry to hear that. And I know there are many others out there like you, Jane. So what should a patient like Jane do, Chad?
Yeah, it's extremely difficult. The number of people who can get the vaccine is far greater than the number of people who cannot. Here in our hospital, we follow the CDC's recommendations, which is basically vaccinate anyone unless they have a history of allergies to the ingredients or have previously become allergic to a vaccine. So unfortunately, when you move out into the community or non-hospital-based areas like clinics and things like that are giving this vaccine, you might get some different guidance because they may feel like they don't have the right things on hand to take care of you if you were to react. So it's very frustrating. Unfortunately, it's not our choice as a hospital to stop vaccinating. We are just not getting the supply of vaccine to do so. There has been a strategic shift in our state's distribution of the vaccine moving forward to move out into the community and away from hospital-based distribution. And so we would love to vaccinate more people here in Duval County and the wider Northeast Florida area. We just don't have the shots to do it. But
not yet, anyway. Yeah.
Not yet. And our vaccine supply for our community and our patients is starting to dry up.
Kathy up on Amelia Island. Hello, Kathy. Good morning.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you for taking my call. I got my first shot at Regency Mall, and I've not gotten a call back to register my second shot, which possibly I could get this coming Thursday.
Uh-huh. And you're wondering about the second dose. Sure. You know, Kathy, I hear you. We're getting emails about that, too. Kathy, thanks for the call. Here's an email from Maryland in Marineland. She says she has an 85-year-old friend who got her first vaccine at the Regency Mall site, but they still haven't given her an appointment for the second dose. She says she's going to show up and stand in line with no appointment to try to get the second dose, Chad. And apparently, I'm sorry, Josh Torres is telling me in my ear something. From 3 to 4 today, you can, apparently from 3 to 4 today, Chad, you can go to the Regency Mall site. If you have not gotten your second dose, and you can try to get the second dose. Kathy, I hope you're listening to that. 3 to 4 today, people trying to get a second dose. Chad, what about this?
Yeah, this is just purely just failings of how this distribution is rolling out. We're talking about 80-year-olds having to wait in line to get a second dose because somebody or some process failed. It's extremely frustrating, and people on my end of the spectrum in public health and epidemiology or in the hospital, it makes us really disheartened and sick to hear that our patients and our community who need it are being forced into these scenarios. I wish we could help more, but I certainly think that they need to be holding folks accountable, continue to call, continue to find out more information on how to get your second dose. We certainly our hearts go out to you all who are in these scenarios, and we wish we could help more. And please be careful today. The temperature is supposed to rise, so if we've got elderly individuals waiting outside for periods of time, please take precautions. It's going to be warm today.
Again, I'm going to repeat this one more time. If you received your first dose between January 20th and January 25th, and you've been unable to get a second dose of the COVID vaccine, go to the Regency Mall today between 3 and 4 o'clock. They will be giving people in your position second doses. Lots of tweets coming into the show. The question, as always, is what are our leaders in Florida going to do about this? A year into this, it seems the answer is absolutely nothing. I applaud our mayor for the mask mandate, even if some mask holes, she says, refuse to comply. Lots of tweets about the more contagious variant. Why are we getting so many more cases? As Chad pointed out, we have a combination of snowbirds, tourism, and lax mitigation protocols. Let's go to Osei on the south side. Hi, Osei. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
Yes. I wasn't sure whether you recorded what I asked, but I wanted to make a comment. What we're going through is a perfect example of why we need a national health program in this country. We could be much more efficient. We could have rolled out this process more efficiently. And for those who are suffering, standing in lines, who are elderly, they could have had specific attention paid to their condition and location and have healthcare distributed in a manner that's reflective of what we're capable of in the United States. everything's being politicized. I don't think healthcare should be one of them.
Yeah. Thank you, Osei. You know, Chad, if nothing else, this pandemic has brought home to all of us how short-sighted it was to decimate budgets for public health. And as a society, we do need to revisit that whole mindset because we've seen how this can really impact millions and millions of people.
Yeah, that's right. It's always very jarring in the healthcare community and in public health in general to see that we're the only first world country really who does not have some kind of nationalized healthcare program beyond Medicare and Medicaid. So we know we've got healthcare issues here in our country. It's extended for decades now, and certainly some of that would help ease what we're dealing with right now. I think you're going to see after this pandemic is over, the real toll will extend far beyond just COVID-19. You're going to see increased rates of comorbidities, heart disease, how many people died because they didn't have health care insurance or whatnot to get the care they needed while hospitals were dealing with COVID. So I think he's right. It's a very touchy subject amongst a lot of us in the field because we absolutely believe that everybody should have a right to health care in this country.
Shelley in Jacksonville. Hi, Shelley.
Thank you for taking my call. I'm just really frustrated because I'm in Florida and I'm in Jacksonville, go to St. Augustine all the time, and there's people without masks. In the neighborhood, there's people hanging out at each other's houses, at the amenity center, at the pool area, children with no masks, people walking with no masks, hanging out, no social distancing. In the stores, there's people even in the stores without masks, and when people complain to the manager says, well, we can't enforce them to wear a mask. So it's like, no wonder Florida is so high.
I know.
No one's wearing a mask.
Yeah, I know, Shelley. It's so true. And again, we've said this many times on this program. We applaud Jacksonville Mayor Lenny Curry's decision to keep extending the mask mandate for Duval County throughout this ordeal. It's really unfortunate that the surrounding counties haven't followed suit. You know, Chad, I know people that will cross the county line to do their grocery shopping, people that live in St. Johns County, for example, but they'll drive into Duval to go to the grocery store because they feel safer going into an establishment where they know people will pretty much be masked up.
Yeah, and I think it's just, again, a further indictment of how the state has handled our mitigation efforts for COVID-19, that we're forcing people to go and make choices of places that they feel safe because there's not good mandates or good rules or good ability for folks to withhold those rules in their stores or their establishments. So I've seen it myself. I shop at certain places or I go certain places that I think have a higher prevalence of people who are going to be following public health guidance, and I have both vaccines on board, so I've been vaccinated. I still wear a mask because I'm concerned about passing it to others. So it's unfortunate, but it's the reality we're living in right now, and I'm not sure we're going to see an end to this anytime soon in terms of our ability for Florida to contain this.
Becky in St. Augustine. Hello, Becky.
Good morning, Melissa. I was calling to respond to the person who texted in talking about the difference between calling the UK variant or 117 the UK variant and then the public reaction to the president and others calling
the China virus, right?
Virus.
Sure.
Right. So those comments and those names they aren't used in a vacuum. We have a historical context. And in the United States, we don't have a long history of racialized violence against the UK, but there is some history behind the way the United States treated Chinese immigrants and an administration that seemed to have some issues with the way it, addressed our foreign relations. So the comments don't happen in a vacuum, and that's, I think, the reason why people respond one way to UK variant and another way to calling it the China virus.
Thank you, Becky, for pointing out some of that context. I appreciate that. All right. And as we wrap up this conversation with Chad at UF Health, let me get this information out one more time. If you need a second shot for COVID-19 and you have not been able to get another appointment, you can get it today at the Regency Mall. Just show up between 3 and 4 o'clock. You need to have gotten your first shot between the dates of January 20th and 25th. Actually come between 3 and 4:30 p.m. to the Regency Mall. Bring your CDC card from when you got your first dose. Bring your ID, or you can bring a photo of the card if you've lost the card. So make an appointment there. Put that on your calendar to show up at Regency today if you are like many who've contacted this show today and you've been unable to get your second dose of COVID-19. And Chad Nielsen, UF Health Jacksonville, what's your final thought about all of this as we let you go?
Yeah, so I just ask people continue to be safe, continue to do the things we know that are public health approved, social distancing and masking, and don't lose the hope that this is going to end. There's folks like me and certainly hospitals full of people who can see the forest through the trees on this. We're working hard on your behalf to not only ensure we're passing good public health messaging on, but also to try and get more vaccines to get out to the population. So please hang in there. Pandemic fatigue is real, but you all are the ones who are doing this work. Yeah,
oh my gosh,
and I'm there
is.
with you.
Yes, we're so tired of this, so we can't keep stressing this enough. I know how hard this is, but don't let your guard down, people. And thank you, Chad Nielsen, Director of Infectious Disease Prevention at UF Health Jacksonville. Always good to get you on the program.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks so much. Much more ahead later. The mental health crisis among America's students. We'll speak with one educator. But up next.
We're going to be offering 8,100 free Moderna COVID-19 vaccines to eligible recipients across Winn-Dixie.
Winn-Dixie and Harvey stores are new vaccination spots. We'll speak with Southeastern Grocers about that opportunity for all of you out there right after this.
Today in music history, February 15th, 1987, Ben & Jerry's introduces a new flavor, Cherry Garcia, named after the Grateful Dead frontman Jerry Garcia. Hear the Grateful Dead on Anthology on the WJCT app and 89.9 HD3.
If my words did glow with the gold of sunshine and my tunes were played on the harp of
Anthology Turntable Tuesday can now be heard at noon and 9 p.m. every Tuesday on the WJCT app and 89.9 HD3. Join us for music from vinyl on Anthology Turntable Tuesday, part of WJCT's Jacksonville Music Experience.
BritBox and PBS Passport are now offering the best of all your favorite British drama, comedy, and more when you sign up at jacksbundle.com. Start watching today.
Welcome back. Well, more vaccination sites are opening up around town this month, and that is certainly good news. One place seniors can now go to get their COVID shot is Winn-Dixie and Harvey stores. To learn more, I spoke with Sean Sloan, Vice President at Southeastern Grocers. Hey, Sean, thanks so much for talking with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
It's such good news to hear that more locations are opening up around the area for COVID vaccinations. That includes Winn-Dixie and Harvey stores. Tell us a little bit more about the program you're implementing throughout North Florida.
All right, so, we remain really excited about the fact that we're able to partner with the Florida Department of Health and obviously the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And we're going to be offering 8,100 free Moderna COVID-19 vaccines to eligible recipients across Winn-Dixie and Harvey's, and 5 of those stores are here in Duval County, which is great, and that's a part of 43 stores in 29 counties across the state. And that's going to be really exciting for us and able to help get the vaccine to these markets that have been kind of underserved in the course of time for this, and enable us to better serve our communities.
How did you come about choosing the locations?
Basically, we picked locations that had our pharmacies that are higher in volume and are really spread and based across more of our markets, including our rural and inner city markets as well, to make sure that we get the most of the vaccine to the most customers that are necessary, especially in this first phase, where it's with customers that are over 65 years of age. That's important for us, and that was important to make sure that we get those areas covered. There's been a lot of talk about that area being the most important right now.
So how should seniors access your system and make an appointment? What's the best way to do this?
So the best way to do it is basically they go to the Harvey Supermarket or Winn-Dixie Supermarket's websites. And there's a link on the top that says COVID-19 link. And if you click onto it, it'll take them to the scheduling system. And that system will enable them, once the appointments are available, to be able to get into it and schedule an appointment with one of our pharmacies within their market. We encourage them to continue to do that. Keep going on the site and continue to go on there, because things change, and sometimes people cancel, and it's a very, very important process to make sure that you keep going into it and keep trying.
Certainly, that's what's been happening with the public's vaccination appointments. People just keep trying to get in. Do you anticipate the same thing with this?
No, actually, we've been very, very happy with the process with our scheduling system. It's been functioning very, very well. Getting a lot of compliments on the actual usage of the system itself, and it's been a very, very smooth process. But again, there's very limited amount of vaccine currently, and the appointments, they do fill up pretty quickly. But we encourage people to keep going on the site and continue to keep trying on a daily basis.
What about other categories? People that are high risk, for example, even your frontline employees at Southeastern Grocers. When do you anticipate they might have the chance to get the vaccine?
Well, so right now, with the way the CDC has set up the guidelines, it's nursing home or assisted living facilities, it is frontline workers, and it's frontline workers as well as over 65. That's the current state. We encourage our associates that fall within the same category in that age group to make sure that they're working and getting assigned into the system as well. We also anticipate, as the process evolves and more vaccine becomes available and we move into the other phases, that we'll make sure that we get our associates even more coverage than they currently can going forward.
And eventually, you just hope to spread it out, more shots per day, more locations. Just bigger and better, it sounds like, as soon as the supply is there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We continue to work with the CDC and the state of Florida. As more vaccine becomes available, we'll continue to partner, and we will be adding more sites, more locations, and we'll be able to get more of the vaccine out in the communities that we currently are today as the process continues to roll out.
Thanks for your time. He's Sean Sloan, North Florida Regional Vice President for Southeastern Grocers, Winn-Dixie and Harvey stores in our area. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, students' mental health problems in this pandemic have been skyrocketing, with young people reporting much higher rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. LaShanta Holiday of Scholar Metrics in Jacksonville works with kids struggling to study and learn in this challenging time, and she has some advice for parents. LaShanta, it's so good to talk to you. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
I think parents everywhere can identify with the message you're going to send right now. Kids are suffering. They're suffering academically. Their mental health is suffering. We're going through this with our family, with our own children. Full disclosure, you tutor one of my kids and are so good at it. This is such a tough time for kids. And so what are you seeing when you have children come to you for educational support and emotional support? Tell me what you're seeing.
Oh, wow. I am seeing students who are very bright, who have a history of performing well in the classroom generally, and they are feeling overwhelmed. They're feeling a lot of anxiety, especially for those students who are transitioning from virtual back into the traditional classroom setting, or they're completely virtual. These students are showing signs of even depression. And we're in the space of social distancing where we have to social distance. But the challenge is it's not that our students have to social distance. They have to be physically distant, but they still need the social and emotional connection. And so that's what's missing, and it's showing up in our students with feeling overwhelmed by not understanding how to go through the academics alone, because they're usually alone virtually, and feeling just a high sense of anxiety, being away from their friends, away from folks who generally care for them, and not knowing what to do with all of these feelings.
Yeah. And, parents are just desperate to help their children, the stress that they see their kids going through. What advice do you have for parents and families right now?
Be patient. I think patience is needed across the board, and we're all experiencing these stresses at the same time, at different levels, but at the same time. And so for parents who obviously love their children, they want their children to be successful. As parents, we want to provide a safe space for our students, our children, to come to us and share what they're feeling. And so for those parents who are struggling, or they have these challenging experiences with watching their children not perform well in school, or not wanting to engage in school, providing opportunities to have an outlet, an emotional outlet, a physical outlet, whether it's running or yoga or biking, skateboarding, drawing, any opportunities like that. Our students really need an outlet.
Mm-hmm.
They've been in this house for almost a year now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's a lot for our children to make sense of what's this new normal for us.
You also work with kids on mindfulness, and you even say it's more work, but you say parents could even do a mindfulness journal with their children, or there are some other tools you recommend that we can try with our kids to kind of help them feel more in control and feel calmer.
Yes. So games, tactile activities, things like learning to crochet, doing something with their hands, taking their focus off of the theme, right? And so you want to give children a sense of connectedness and a feeling that they are still belonging, and giving them an opportunity to have an outlet to get rid of those feelings of anxiety, those tense feelings of stress, and putting it into a different activity, a more positive activity.
Tell us a little. Oh, go ahead.
And in our work here at Scholar Metrics, we use bullet journals. So our students are introduced to bullet journals to give them an opportunity to doodle. A lot of our kids are very artistic, and it gives them an opportunity to freestyle their thoughts and make connections to things that are happening with their friends, things that are happening in school, things that they're thinking about that they're not willing to share openly with a parent or even a teacher. And a bullet journal is a great way for students to focus, to regain focus, to help develop those executive functioning skills, and keep track of what's happening in their day-to-day. And so I would encourage parents to also begin implementing bullet journals.
A bullet journal. Or they could call it whatever they like, but doing that, I think, makes such a difference. And people can follow you at kidslovetolearnhere.com, Scholar Metrics, and the Gentry School. Follow them at Scholar_Metrics on Instagram and Facebook as well. LaShonta Holiday, thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And in a moment, a word of warning about your smartphone and your pacemaker. We'll be right back.
In colonial America, children often served as intermediaries between adversaries as a way of keeping the peace. Historian Karen Ordahl-Kupperman joins us to talk about how Pocahontas collaborated with a trio of English boys to keep communication flowing between the colonists and their Indian neighbors. Her new book is called Pocahontas and the English Boys. That's next time on Think. Tonight at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
The Vizcaya Museum and Gardens in Miami was originally the palatial estate of agricultural industrialist James Deering. I'm Ben Brotmarkle, and coming up on Florida Frontiers, the weekly radio magazine of the Florida Historical Society, will visit Vizcaya. We'll discuss an article from the Florida Historical Quarterly on the Ocoee Massacre of 1920 and Black pioneers in Apopka. That's Florida Frontiers, Monday evening at 6:30 on WJCT News 89.9.
Public pools, longtime staples of summertime fun, have a long, sad history.
Black families never got the kind of richly funded public amenities that were the hallmark of the pre-integration era.
I'm Kai Rizdal, a deep dive on access to those pools next time on Marketplace.
Tomorrow night at 6, here on WJCT News 89.9.
On average, pay for American workers has risen 12% over the past 40 years. Our CEOs have had a better ride. Their salaries have shot up by 1,000% over the same period, and a new minimum wage isn't going to fix that. Pay gaps and politics. That's next time on 1A from WAMU and NPR.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, according to a recent article published in the Heart Rhythm Society, your smartphone, some of your smartphones out there, are designed with a magnet that allows the phone to wirelessly charge the batteries. But that same magnet could also interact with a heart defibrillator or a pacemaker if it's at close range. It's a bit of a warning, and you need to know more about it. I learned more from Dr. Nicholas Mandalakis, a cardiac electrophysiologist at Memorial Hospital in Jacksonville. Dr. Mandalakis, thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So it's my understanding that it's not very common for the Heart Rhythm Society to publish alerts on consumer products. So what can you tell us about this finding?
So I've been part of Heart Rhythm since the 80s, and we had a different name before, but they very rarely have done this kind of thing. What's happened now are that there are smartphones which are built with a magnet on board. And the point of this is to enhance wireless charging, but the interaction with the pacemaker defibrillator is problematic.
And how does it interfere with devices that are implanted in someone's heart?
So the interaction, I mean, this is a very, very good question. And the way that works, which I think is helpful if people understand the mechanism a little bit, is that the device itself, so up by the shoulder, the device has a reed switch. So that is something that is there by design and is functional. And, it serves a purpose in being there. But if the device with the magnet would come close to that, it would trigger the reed switch. And in the case of the defibrillator, it actually would disable the defibrillator. So that, that's obviously a very serious problem.
That could be dangerous. So what advice do you have for people with defibrillators, pacemakers? Let's assume most of these folks have a smartphone. Do they need to not have one anymore?
So first off, no one ever said, that if you had a smartphone or any other type of cell phone that you can hold it very close to an implanted pacemaker or defibrillator. That's always been an issue. But now, now with the circular wave magnets, SafeMag, it's actually called, this becomes much more of a problem. We have told people to go ahead and have a smartphone. In fact, I think that for an older person, the smartphone is incredibly useful. A cell phone is very important if someone were to become injured and need to call for help, to have a phone. But we tell people to keep the phone itself away from the implanted device. So even if you're not talking, the phone is just in standby to keep it away from the pacemaker or defibrillator. And it's generally a pretty good idea when you're talking to either use a feature where you hold it some distance from your body, or you use the ear on the opposite side of the device.
Okay, that's good advice, something easy to do. So what other advice do you have for people with a heart device that might want to upgrade their smartphones?
So, the issue about having wireless charger, I think that people very much like that. People like to have a holder in their car that would charge the phone wirelessly, but you may want to consider foregoing this particular product that actually has the magnet and the device and all the accessories that are designed to line up with the magnet. And that company, which is Apple, we're talking about the iPhone 12, has a variety of products, and I think you could just stay away from that. Excuse me. I think that would probably be the smart choice. Now, if you feel that you must, have an iPhone, if you wind up somehow with a device that has a SafeMag, then you obviously just keep it away from your pacemaker, your defibrillator.
Okay. Any other advice you have for people out there?
So I would be remiss at this time to not tell people that, the COVID stuff, we're getting it in hand. Please don't delay your heart care. Please, go to your doctor's appointments. Have your testing that you need. Go to the doctor if you have, chest pain, palpitation, that kind of thing. This specific issue about the magnets and the implanted devices, really, if you have a pacemaker defibrillator, I'm sure you have a physician who would know what to do about this. Beyond that, there are only a handful of companies in the United States that have their devices implanted. All of them are going to have a number where you can call and check on this.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Nicholas Mandalikas. He's a cardiac electrophysiologist at Memorial Hospital in Jacksonville. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And that's our show for this President's Day. Thanks for listening. And thanks to all of our guests and callers, along with our stellar production staff, producer Heather Schatz, director Josh Torres, news director Jessica Plumbo, and digital editor Bill Bortsfield. Keep those emails coming. Send them to firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. We value your feedback quite a bit. And you can listen to our podcast up later today wherever you like to listen. Or download the WJCT app. Listen there to this show and a lot of other cool stuff. I'm Melissa Ross. This is First Coast Connect on WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. We'll be right back here again at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Have a great day.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist Health and the North Florida TPO.